For all of our Philadelphia homeowners, landowners, hotel owners, if you are thinking about selling a house in Philly and you're wondering what is this going to cost you? What are the seller closing costs when you part ways with this property? How much money are you saving? How much money are you not saving? We're going to dive into each closing cost, explain really quick what it is, how much it is, and what you can expect on your next sale. Closing cost, number one, transfer tax. This one is a doozy in Philly. If you're selling a property, the total cost, this total closing cost, is 4.278% of the sale price. Specific, I know. Philly's counting their pennies. What is transfer tax? Part of it goes right back to the city, part of it goes to the state, and this happens on the transfer of a property, transferring from your name into someone else's name. Typically, buyer and seller split this cost, so instead of paying 4.278%, you're paying 2.139%. Also a very specific number, also down to the penny. Feels like a lot, doesn't feel good. Definitely not. To put it into perspective, average home price in Philly, according to Redfin, is $255,000. Half of the transfer tax, meaning the seller side, your side, for this is $5,454. Call it $5,500 just for transfer tax, unless you and the buyer negotiate something where they're going to cover maybe some of the closing costs. Closing cost, number two, title fees. Not nearly as bad as transfer tax, but every dollar counts when you're selling a house or when doing anything in life. Title fees are, you have a title company that helps facilitate the closing, do certain tasks, prepare documents, set up the notary, things like that. They help facilitate the sale. Some of those cost money, and you also someone has to pay them for doing this, right? So title fees, some examples of them include a notary fee could be $100, closing fee preparation can be $100, document preparation fee, another $75. You're looking at around $300, give or take, for title fees. Closing cost, number three, recording fees. Typically around $300. Common example of a recording fee, if you have a mortgage on your house now and you're selling it, the title company needs to record that you have actually satisfied your mortgage and paid it at closing. It's called a mortgage satisfaction document, and that's the recording fee cost. And for the grand total, if you have a house in Philly and you're selling it, the closing costs that sellers have to bear just to move on to the next chapter is $6,029. Call it $6,000 if we're taking, the median home price of $255,000 in Philly. Ouch. It's a lot of money just to move on to the next chapter and sell your place. If you're working with us at Brotherly Love Real Estate, we cover these closing costs for you, so you can put $6,000 back into your pocket. But before we go, a few more bonus seller closing costs. Not that it feels like a bonus because it's an extra cost, but just a few more costs to be aware of as a seller that are only applicable for certain situations. That's why I saved them for the end. Just gonna rattle them off quick. And these do typically come from the actual homeowner side because they're just things that are applicable only to certain situations, but you can consider them closing costs. Number one, prorated taxes, right? If you need to pay your taxes and you haven't yet, that obviously just comes out of the seller side. Another one, inheritance tax. If you inherited a property, you do need to pay inheritance tax at some point. You can do that when the property is inherited, or you do have a short amount of time after closing if you want to wait as well. It's kind of up to you. Just to wrap all this up in a bow, all the costs that we discussed just now are if it is an off-market sale. If you are selling your house on the market, listing it with a realtor, there are additional costs that sometimes do come for sellers that you have to pay. And the buyer, when you're selling it on the market, doesn't always offer you the moon and back, doesn't always say, hey, I'll cover literally everything for you. Just a few of those to be aware of. If you're thinking about doing that in the future, just so you know, there can be substantial seller closing costs that you have to incur if you're listing your home, selling it on the market. Of course, the first one, paying the agent, right? You have to pay your realtor. It could be 3%, 4, 5, up to 6% sometimes sellers have to pay to cover both agents involved in the transaction. That's a huge cost. That's way bigger than the transfer tax that just you as a seller would have to typically incur. That's one additional seller closing cost that you're dealing with. Another one, home staging. Are you planning on hosting open houses and you have to stage your home? This is hard to even consider a closing cost because it's a cost you have to pay literally before closing. You're investing, you're almost taking a gamble, spending money before you even make any money on the sale of your home. Home warranty is another cost that sellers incur when listing their home. And of course, the big one, dealing with repairs, i.e. seller concessions. Seller concessions can range from 2% all the way up to almost 5% is commonly seen on houses that are listed in Philly. So just be ready for that. If your home needs some repairs, if it needs extensive repairs, there's a good chance that the buyers are gonna come knocking on your door right before closing happens. And they're gonna say, hey, we need 2%, 3%, 5% off the sale price, or you gotta fix these yourself. Not something that's fun to deal with, not a fun pill to swallow, and it's a huge cost, and all of these things do add up. So that's the full rundown on seller closing costs and what you can expect to have to spend, maybe have to spend, or save when selling a house in Philly.